What's up, Magnetic Men Club? We are back here on another Friday call with you guys. Today, we wanted to talk all about how to find your direction in life, how to figure out where you are, and then start to make changes in your life to actually move you forward in the direction that you actually want to be in, the direction of your desired life. And that's what all this comes down to. I'm Chase. This is my good friend Jared here.
What's up, kids? How's everyone doing? I hit a wrong button. There we go. All right, I'm back at it. Yeah, Chase and Kim, he'll tell you more about it after this. We kind of talked a little bit about it last live on the Wheel of Life. Chase actually made it completely automated, completely digitized, so it's much easier to use. But we wanted to do a video on it because I'm guilty of it too, to a degree, is we all live an unbalanced life.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you feel stuck in life or you feel like there's something not working, look at maybe you are making all the money in the world. You have a great business, but your dating life sucks. Or you have a great business, your personal health suffers. You're a little bit overweight. There's an imbalance in your life. And so we've all been there. We've all done that. And the key is to try to generate as balanced of a life as you can, or I actually should say, as you want to, because I've coached people and their dating life sucks and they seem to not care. They're like, that's really not a concern of mine. I want to do this, this, and this, and this. So you have to want it, of course. So if you don't want a balanced life, then this video is probably not for you. But I would say 98% of the people we talk to, the people we coach, the people we interact with, there is something coming up short in their life that they want to bring up. And there's probably some other areas in their life that's going really well, but it's consuming so much of their time that they're being pulled in that direction. They feel they're being pulled in that direction and they're losing ground in another direction. Perfect example, like I said, somebody who is overweight and they're eating like crap because maybe they're in sales and they're just killing it, and they just can't get away from
I've been
the
there.
computer, or they can't get away from, maybe they sell cars or houses or whatever it is. And so it becomes hard to understand what actually balance means.
So the
And
thing
I'd like
is,
to
too, like,
Chase to kind of explain maybe his thoughts on, because
yeah,
balance means a lot of different things. People might say, shit, I'm a 10 in making all the money I want. To me, a 5 in my love relationship, that's balanced.
right.
To them, it might be. So the
Well, the
idea of
thing is,
balance
too,
means a
is
lot of things to everybody.
I think to get anything that we want out of life,
Mhm.
like we have to go through seasons of imbalance. Like we have to focus more on our business sometimes when things are taking off. We have to focus more on our careers, even if we're trying to move up the corporate ladder. And a lot of the time that requires us to work weekends. It requires us to work like 12-hour days. And it takes that much more time away from our family, from our love life, from the other things that we do. If we're working 12-hour days, 6 days a week, man, you're going to be hard pressed to find time to go to the gym. You're going to be hard pressed to find time to actually meal prep and eat right. And so most of the time, you're working those 12 hours, you're going to McDonald's, you're eating like crap because it's quick, right? And so a lot of the time, it ends up basically just steamrolling over us. Like I've been there before. I know that when I was trying to move up at the IRS, when I was working there, moving up the corporate ladder, trying to skill myself up, I had to basically just eat at McDonald's every single day. I had to
Yeah.
drive a half hour to get there, drive a half hour home, work 10 hours when I was there. And so I just was falling apart on my health. I was falling apart on my family life. I think that stuff just wasn't aligning. And so like I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, something's missing. I don't know what it is. Like I don't like this life. This isn't where I saw myself, and I don't really want to be doing this full time. And so I realized, okay, I need to run my own business. I want to move to Cabo. I want to actually like live the digital nomads lifestyle. Like I can start a marketing agency. I can learn anything I need to make sure that I can do that. And I achieved all that. It all worked out for me. I actually ended up starting that agency. We ended up being pretty successful with it. I ended up moving to Cabo, and we've been living here for 4 years ever since. And so ultimately, I can't just go get a job here. I have to keep working online. I have to keep making money online. It's not so simple for me to just lean back. Like my boats are burned. There's no boats for me to go back on. There's no bridges to get back to the mainland. I'm
Yeah.
stuck on an island out here, right? I've got to win or I die. And so that's really what it all comes down to, is really kind of putting yourself in those kinds of positions. But at the same time, like, what is your motivation? I think we're all kind of motivated to do things at the first of the year, especially when New Year's resolution comes around. We're like, dude, I'm going to freaking get into the best shape of my life before the summertime. But we never do. Most of the time, it just never really happens. We end up falling apart before March, right? Because it's hard to stay consistent with things. And we expect these massive changes all at once. We don't ever think about the little changes that kind of accumulate into the big changes. It's the little things and focusing on the little things and winning at the little habits and the little things that we do every single day that make the most massive differences. And so trying to be 1% better every day, just like James Clear says in Atomic Habits, right? Then you can be 37 to 38%, or times, not percent, but times better. Like, you think about yourself and everything you're going through and think about that being 37 times better by the end of the year. And so that's massive. That's a massive difference. That's a massive transformation. And all of it comes from the little things. And like I said, we all kind of feel inadequate sometimes. We all feel like there's so much going on in life that it's really hard for us to know what to change or know what area is lacking. Like, we're working on our business, we're making the money, the family has the money, but you're not spending any time with them. And so your kids aren't respecting you the way they should. Maybe your wife is getting more distant. There's a lot of those things that start to happen, and a lot of those relationships start to fall apart too. Like, your friends just stop inviting you out eventually, and every part of your life starts to fall apart. And that's why knowing specifically which parts of your life are falling apart, what needs help versus what doesn't, it allows you to focus on those things more clearly.
Yeah, yeah, and that test that we're alluding to will definitely help you guys see in real time, based off your answers, what you're coming up, or not what you're coming up short in, but what you're valuing on a number scale less than what you're putting as a value higher. And so it's a really good baseline for everyone just to who's watching this. The link will be down below. Just take it. It's free. We're not gonna spam you or none of that crap. But the idea of balance. So I always have this, I guess, thought that you're on a teeter-totter, right? And so on one side, you have chaos. That's the fat kid who's eating the cupcake. And the other side, you have the equal fat kid eating a donut, and that's order. So you have chaos and you have order. Too much order leads to kind of totalitarianism. It actually leads to boredom. I mean, if you have too much order in your life, you're very predictable. You are kind of viewed in a way boring, stuffy. There's people like that, and that's how they thrive. But as soon as something happens in their life, guess what happens? They get thrown into chaos. And chaos is just depression, fear. They're disgusted about a certain thing. So the fat kid throws the donut off when something's off. And then the other fat kid who's got a little bit more weight, boom, goes this way. And now you're thrown right into chaos. So the key is, I like to use the yogi. You guys probably see my writings, and I do a lot on the Buddhas. Even though I'm not a Buddhist, their teachings I understand. They have this word called sattva, Sattva, and that means balance, balance life. And the way to stay on that teeter totter is stand right in the middle of it. When you feel too much on one side, you got to put more energy on the other. Your body actually knows how to do this in real time without you having to do anything. It's called homeostasis. Our bodies always try to keep equilibrium. So we have to kind of think about that when we're feeling there's something in our lives that we know we might need help on. Maybe it's dating, like I said, maybe it's getting to the gym, maybe it's spending time with your wife or your girlfriend or your family or your kids. Well, that's two different types of teeter totters you have to understand, because the whole idea of work life balance doesn't make any sense to me. You have work and then you have your life.
There's
And you
seasons of
want to think
imbalance.
about,
Yeah,
huh?
just like David Goggins talks about, like, you're going to go through imbalance. Sometimes life requires you to be imbalanced. We can't completely be in harmony
Sure.
all the time, but we need feedback to know exactly which direction to go in and know, like, have that faith that we're moving in
Mhm.
the right direction.
Absolutely, absolutely. But if you're killing it in business, you need to have a balance in the business. And if you're not doing too well, and maybe you're married again, you have kids, you're not doing too well there, well, you have to then kind of start balancing out that personal side of you. Now, these two can talk to each other because obviously your business, whatever it is you do, will transfer into your personal life. And your personal life, it'll also transfer into your business. But they're two separate teeter totters. A lot of people merge them together, and I don't think that's a very healthy thing to do because maybe you had a bad day at work. Why would the F would you bring it home? Maybe you had a bad day at maybe you got sick and you had to stay home for one reason. Why would you take it out on your employees at work because you weren't there for one day? So you have to stay balanced separately first in order to then understand how you can merge this together. So when I talk about balanced life, I'm not talking about work balance. I'm just talking about being a balanced individual spiritually, physically, obviously mentally, being balanced in your relationships, being balanced in society or how you're viewed in society. All of these require balance. And a lot of times, like I said, when we talk about balance, it always goes to work life. And that's really not where I want to kind of take this conversation because if you're not balanced in everything and something comes off, you're either going to go to chaos or you're going to go too far to order, and then you're going to become boring and stuffy. I want to give you an example of order because this happened to me when my ex-wife passed away 9 years ago. She had the kids half of the month. I had the kids the other half of the month. So in my business, I was able to do a lot of my work knowing I would have my kids. I think it was, I'm just guessing again, it was maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, and then every other Friday, Saturday, Sunday. However, it worked out. I had them equally the same amount of time. We had 50-50 custody. So when I was working, I didn't have to worry about the kids. She took care of everything. And when she was working, she would load up her clients because she was a hairstylist. So she would like work 12, 14-hour days, knowing she'd have the weekend off and she wasn't working that weekend because she had the kids. Great. So we had balance. We understood balance. Well, when she died, that was like the fat kid fell off and didn't even come back to the playground. I'm like, holy shit, I'm one deep now. I didn't have balance. So the only thing I could do is go to order. I had to live by my calendar. I had to say, okay, Cole had to be picked up at this time, dropped off here. Madison had a play date. I had to pick up her, drop her off. I lived on order for 6 of those 9 years, almost 7 of those 9 years. They're older now, so I don't have as much responsibility on their day to day interactions as I did. But I had to live almost like a totalitarian. I was very boring. I didn't go out much. I kind of lived, breathed, and died by their schedule, but that's what I had to do. So I'm not saying sometimes when you go to order, it's a bad thing. Sometimes it's a necessary evil just to get through that season of your life. In that scenario, you can't really have balance, in my opinion. Maybe some of you guys going through this experience the same thing and you were able to get balance, but in this scenario, you couldn't. And then when they started getting older, I started realizing, okay, my life's pretty effing boring. Like I've literally raised my kids. I love them. I got them to healthy adults. Nobody got pregnant. Nobody was doing drugs. My daughter wasn't on a pole. They graduated high school. I did what I felt I needed to do to get them to that level of their life. Then I started noticing in everything else I was doing, I was just very rigid. I went to the gym at this time because that's the only time I could go. I ate at this time. So what happened was when their absence, when they didn't need me as much, threw me into chaos. I stopped going to the gym for about a month or two. I was like, I don't need to go at 5 o'clock. Screw that. My kids don't have to get up anymore. I started eating like crap. I had to refine my balance to my whole life. And I came across through coaching this wheel of life. This was the first time I had to do it with pen and paper, but this was the first time I started realizing that I had no balance. If you look at this circle, it looks like it's supposed to be a perfect circle. Mine was health and fitness was really good, and then like love life was like two. And so if I went down the road, it would be like clunk, 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 clunk. Like half of the stuff wasn't even there. So I had to relearn what Savata or that balance looked like for me. And I got into coaching. I got Frank, he was a really good coach for me. I got into some other coaches, and it had nothing to do with dating. It was just relearning for me what balance needs to look like now. Now that this season of my life is over.
Right.
And so maybe you're going through that season and you're like, yeah, this kind of this is kind of me. Well, we can certainly help you, even though we know you need to kind of stay in this season because there's something going on. You can still find balance in other things to maybe help not throw you into chaos when that pendulum comes back, because it always will. And when you go into chaos, you get into fear, you get into disgust with yourself, you can get into depression. That's what we don't want. I had some bouts of depression. I was like, man, my son just graduated high school today, and I was happy for him, but I was depressed. I was like, yeah, he still needs me, but I don't have little babies anymore. They don't need me like that. And so it kind of threw me for a while into a depressive state until I relearned how to get back out there in society and kind of re-educate myself. So I want to tell you a little bit about that story because not every unbalanced situation, sometimes you need to stay in that unbalanced situation for a season so that you can get through it, maybe for other people. In this case, it was for my kids. I'll bring it back to you, Chase, on that because you're probably like, okay, I got it. But
No, no, for sure. I think it makes a lot of sense. Like I said, you kind of go through those seasons of imbalance and like we
yeah,
end up losing the different parts of our lives that we really valued. And I think it changes like depending on how old you are too. Like I remember when I was 15 to 25 years old, like there were different things that were important to me versus when I was
sure.
25 to 35. And I'm sure for you, there's different things that are important to you at your stage of life too. And so it's really like I said, it changes every kind of decade, like what you kind of focus on, what you start to feel is lacking. Because I know like when you're younger, like the hormones are raging and you're like, dude, all I need is freaking women, all I need is the gym and all that stuff too, and it's cool and it works out, but like there's other parts that lack. And like what a lot of people miss is the fact like the whole point is finding joy. Like it's really just finding prolonged happiness. We don't want to be depressed all the time. And if you're depressed, it's likely because one of these areas are imbalanced for you. Like if you're not feeling good, you're not feeling like yourself, or you're
Yeah,
feeling like you're lost or you're stuck or you don't know where to go. Like I felt like that. And it's an excruciating feeling. I hate that feeling, man. And I remember even when I started my business, like I didn't know exactly what I needed to do to be successful. And it was grueling. Like every single day I woke up and I just didn't know what to focus on. And it was grueling.
yeah,
It sucked. And everybody tells you like, oh, well, you just need more sales. The lifeblood of a business is more sales. And like, yeah, that's true. But there's
yeah,
more to it than that. Like, I don't want to spend all of my time working. I don't want to like have the lines between my home and my work life blurred, right? There shouldn't be blurred lines there. There needs to be clear boundaries between those two things. And like I didn't realize that stuff 5, 10 years ago. But now that I value that. That's very important to me. When I was 25, I didn't care, man. Like it could be work at home. I'm working wherever I'm living, whatever. It didn't matter back then. But nowadays, like I'm like, okay, I need an office. Like I need to go work somewhere outside of my house because there needs to be clear boundaries there because you start to
sure.
lose it. Like when you're still working at 10 p.m. at night when you should be hanging out with the family and winding down so that you have energy for the next day,
Yeah.
there's a problem. And you're going to feel like there's a problem. You're going to feel like you can never shut it off. You're going to feel like you're always working. And like, that's okay for a period of time, but it's not okay to continue living like that. I've noticed, like, I've talked to a lot of guys in our coaching program who, their wives like are falling, like their kids are not respecting them for one thing. Like they're like, I know one guy that I talked to like a couple weeks ago, and he was telling me that, he's got these daughters that he's really concerned about. And he's like, they live in Texas right now. I'm down here in Cabo. And so he's like, if they called me tomorrow and said they wanted me there, I would be on the next flight. And he was feeling like they just didn't respect him enough. And he's like, they're not even interested in men. And one of them thinks that she's a they, them. And like, he doesn't know what to do about it. He has no clue, like, where to even start with that. And a lot of these guys don't realize that, like, that's where we're talking about these balanced things. Like, you're not showing up for yourself. So obviously you're not showing up for your family. And so it all starts with you. You have to show up for yourself before you can show up for anybody else. And a lot of that comes down to not neglecting your health, making sure you're eating the right things. A lot of the time, your diet can contribute very negatively to your mood. Your stomach controls every hormone in your body. And so when your stomach is imbalanced and when you're not eating right, you're not valuing your health in that sense, you're going to feel like crap all the time. Like, you're just never going to be happy, and it's going to be impossible. And then the thing is too, is exercise, creating those endorphins. Like, it makes you so happy. Like the gym is a natural antidepressant. That's why we push the gym so much, because if there's anything that you can do to make the most meaningful impact, it's the gym. And when I read James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, like, he talks about keystone habits, like finding those keystone things, the one thing that you can work on that has a domino effect on everything else down the line, right? And so that's the thing, is like just getting that one thing right. And the gym is one of those things. Your nutrition is one of those things. If you can get your nutrition and go to the gym, like, man, everything else in your life is going to improve drastically down the line. But it's hard to do it when it's just you, right? Because like your family kind of cancels you out. It's like, they're eating McDonald's, I want to eat McDonald's. They're drinking soda, I want to drink soda. They're not going to the gym, so like, why should I bother going to the gym? Let's just sit around and watch cartoons. It doesn't matter. And so you start to really, like, the people around you rub off on you. But the problem with being a man and being in the leadership role is it starts with you. Like, they're all following after you. And so if you have bad habits, you better believe your family has bad habits. If they're not respecting you, it's probably because you don't respect yourself very much. Your self-worth is probably in the dirt. And it's probably because you can't control a lot of these things. You can't find the time for the gym, so you're getting fatter. You can't find the time to eat right, and so you're just feeling unhealthy. And so your family starts to do the same things. And then they stop respecting you because, like I said, you're not respecting yourself. You don't respect yourself enough to eat right, to go to the gym, to make sure you're doing these things the right way. You're not setting aside the time to do these things. And so neither is your family. And so that's why your wife is getting more distant. That's why your kids are probably falling off and like really not doing what you expect them to do. A lot of it starts with you. And so, like I said, I mean, that's really just kind of my 2 cents on that. I've noticed that when I'm falling apart, my family is right after me. Like, they don't sit and make the right decisions. They make decisions based on what I'm doing. And if I'm making the right decisions, I'm outside going to the gym, I'm going for a run every day, I'm eating right, I'm saying that we're meal prepping, we're not eating out anymore, they follow me.
Sure. Yeah. And that's the way, obviously that's the way it should be, have that respect in the family, as long as the man is rightful to have the respect. So a lot of men just want the respect
Exactly.
without doing the work. And then that causes obviously conflicts in the harmonious balance of life. And so the other part of this too is, you always got external forces on you, society. Society wants you to do this. You got to do this report. You got to do your homework. You got to go to the gym. There's all these things that we as people need to do. And I use as grown-ups. It can be man, woman, or whatever, that we have to do. And then there's the things that you want to do. And they never agree. There's always conflict there. I want to half the time not go to the gym. I enjoy going to the gym, but I don't really enjoy it. I still think the people who say the gym is their religion and they love it, they're psychos. They don't love it. They're just nuts. Okay. To me, I go just to get it done. I don't enjoy it one bit. There's no pleasure in the gym at all for me, but I know I need to do it. I know it's something that I must do. And yet, society, when I see 80% of the population fat as shit, they're the norm now. That's normative. And so I look at maybe I should have a balanced lifestyle. Maybe I should be fat because that's more balanced now. I won't do it. My point is, you always have conflict. You have exterior conflict when you are doing something and society is doing something else. You have a conflict within you. Like, well, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. Everybody else is going this way. I'm going that way. And so you have to have that obviously have compromise. And so you have to learn to have grace on yourself. You have to learn to be able to compromise even some of the things that you want to do versus some of the things you must do. You must go to work to earn a living in whatever capacity you can earn a living for your family. You want to go to the beach. Well, maybe you can go to the beach one day this month. My point is there's always going to be compromise. You're going to have that conflict on the things you want to do. Most of the time, we as men specifically, we think we have things we have to do. We don't want to do these things. We have to pay the mortgage. We have to mow the lawn. We have to fix this. We have to do all of these things. And then some of the things that we really want to do, we don't ever really get a chance to do it until later in life. And that does cause conflict within ourselves, causes friction definitely within that family union. If you're not 100% on board between you and your wife. And so you have to figure out a way to communicate. Again, if you are married or have an LTR, there's got to be a way for you to communicate with her on some of the things that you need her to do. Some of the things, this is the problem that I see in marriages right now. They just get married for the fucking sake of getting married. And there's never a compromise. There's never a solid talk about, okay, these are the things I'm expecting you to do in the marriage. These are the things I'm expecting you to do when we have children. It just gets thrown together and nobody talks about it. Guess where you're back into? You're back into chaos. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. This is what I'm talking about having a balanced life early on. Before you even propose to your girl, you should be discussing if we have kids, are you staying home? If you're staying home, I'm expecting you to do like 90% of the chores because I now have to work 12, 14 hours a day. I don't want to hear coming out of your mouth as soon as I get home, here's the kids, you're done. This is your job. My job's over here. Again, what did I just talk about? Balance. I'm doing this, I'm balancing that. You're doing this, but you're not balancing it. You're dumping off and abducting your responsibilities as soon as I get home.
Well, that's
This
the
is
norm now. Like
balance.
everybody, I think,
This is the
experiences it at some
norm.
point. Yeah.
This is, there are still some women out there that understand what the roles are. I'm not getting into a religious thing. What I'm talking about is a balance thing. And you can't have balance if you don't have dialogue. If you don't understand what both people need from each other in order to have balance, and you just get married for this fucking word I hear, love. Oh, I love her. Oh, I love her. Ah, love is an emotion. There's no reason to ever make a decision like this on an emotion. You need to have practicality. You need to have an understanding of, yes, I love you. Yes, I want to marry you. Yes, I want to enter into this contract with you, but you got some shit you need to do, and I got shit I need to do. And if I don't do my shit, you hold me accountable. But if you don't do your shit, I'm holding you accountable. This is balance. This is
Right.
what balance looks like. You can't have, like I just said, too much order. You can't be a dictator. Yet you can't be willy nilly and not have any boundaries because then everybody, if you're the leader of the household, creates contract or conflict. So you need stabia, you need balance, you need
Well, it's
harmony.
funny too, because
And
like
you, as the man, have to create that harmony.
a lot of coaches out there, I think a lot of the woo woo coaches and all that stuff too, like they'll tell you to follow your passion. What are you
Yeah.
passionate about? Find out whatever you're passionate about and then go and figure out how to make money from that thing. And it's like, dude, it
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. Like, I think we
It's
all know by
uh,
now that life does not work like that. You will find something that you are passionate about in what you do every day. And so if you just force yourself to learn a skill, if you go to college and you're working towards a career that you really want to work towards, or even if you're going into trades like we talked about last week, you will find passion in whatever you do. It doesn't matter. It doesn't come first. You don't find the passion and then go after it. You do
yeah.
what you have to do, and then eventually you find the passion. And the same thing's true with love too. You do what you have to do. You come into a mutually beneficial relationship with somebody that's win-win on both sides. And then
Sure.
eventually you find the love. Like, love is created. It's not just there, right? A lot of us have feelings of love when we first get into a relationship. Why do you think the divorce rates are so high? Why do you think most relationships fail? Why do you think most people have multiple baby daddies or whatever, right? I'm sure we all experience that to some capacity in our lives. And the
Sure.
thing is, too, is like really realizing that we live in a society where back in the 50s, back in the 60s, they were like, wouldn't it be great if the women went to work too to serve
Sure.
society? Wouldn't it be great if they also had jobs? And then we had feminism created, right? And they're like, equality, and that's what it's all about. But it isn't. It never was. It's all society trying to get us all into the workforce because that serves society. You have to realize that society wants us to do whatever serves society. That society doesn't care about individual people and what we're going through. And the thing is, too, as you get into the early 2000s, it's like, wouldn't it be great if everybody had two jobs? And now we live in a time where wouldn't it be great if everybody just went and got three jobs and the whole household is working and we
Right.
make everybody's working to pay for their lives and nobody actually does anything they enjoy anymore? Society loves that shit. And so society pits us against each other. They're talking about feminism and toxic masculinity, and they just pit us against each other because we keep fighting amongst ourselves and we don't actually take a look at the real problem, which is the society we live in needs to change.
Sure. Sure. And if you look at society as a whole, if you take it to the macro level, society's creating chaos to keep
Yes.
you confused, to keep you in a constant state of fear, which is going to, for some people, lead to depression. And
Right.
then guess what happens? Medication comes in and everybody's medicated. We are the most medicated country, the US, in the world. I think it was like 89%
Oh,
of
easy.
people 18 or older is medicated or is prescribed a medication for something. That's insane. So society wants to keep you in a state of chaos because once you become dependent upon society, upon the government, you're never really going to bite the hand that feeds you. And this is where balance still comes in. There's a balance, yes. Of course, you need to have societal rules. You need to have that understanding. I can't go off and punch this guy in the face, or I can't, shoot somebody. I get it.
There's got to be
There's got to
rules,
be
structure.
order. There's got to be order. But when order isn't really, if you kind of see how society is right now, in New York, for instance, I can go shoplift and nothing will really happen to me. I'll get arrested, and because there's no bail reform up here, I'm out in a couple hours. I get an appearance ticket. It's happening in usually the blue states, in the Democrat retarded states, if you want to call it that, because that's what I call it. There's order, there's order on the books, but there is no actual punishment. So what happens? Up chaos. It's all the same. You have to understand, to have a thriving society, you need to have order and you need to have that balance. Okay. When somebody does something wrong, they need to pay the price for it. If they're not paying the price for it, it's only reinforcing them that, hey, I can keep doing this. I guess this is cool now. And more people will do it. So now you get more chaos and you get more depression and fear that kicks in. And then guess what will happen at some point? The government will come in and put their boot down to establish order again. And then it sort of will balance itself out. My fear is they'll take all your guns away when that happens. And so you have to understand how balance comes into play on everything. You don't want an outside force creating the balance for you. You need to create it first in your home life. That could be work, it can be personal, it could be in the gym, it could be your mental balance. All of these things you have control of. When you give up control to the government to create balance for you, you've completely given up control of your life. And this is what's happening. I know in places like Australia, it's happening. It's in places like England, it's happening. Mostly the westernized world. We're giving up our responsibilities in place for this idea of safety, in place of this fear of the government will create order or balance. They will. You're not going to like the results of it. That's what you guys, the biggest takeaway is what you guys need to understand. You have to create your own balance because if you give it to somebody else, they'll do it for you. You're not going to like how it ends. I promise you, you're not going to like how it ends. So, on that note, let's talk about something a little bit more the benefits of creating balance because we're talking a lot of negativities, but living a balanced lifestyle, having, like you go, like I said, you have work and you have your life. Now, Chase said there should be a boundary. For me, there's not really a boundary. It should be smooth. When I come out of work, I want to go home to my
Right.
kids, go home to my, well, I'm not married, but my girlfriend. I know she cooks. She cooks fucking all the time. So I know the balance is I don't have to worry about cooking. I don't have to worry about making sure my clothes are clean. This is what she's done. It's got to be smooth. And then when I leave the house, it's a smooth transition to get back into work or to get back into whatever style. So you have to figure out a way to create that smoothness where it's not just a cut off and then, oh, I got to put on this hat and go that way.
Right.
How do you create that for you? Because your wife sits right next to you and does the same thing, different, but the same computer stuff. How do you create that smoothness when you
So
guys turn off your
yeah,
computer?
that is an interesting point because yeah, she works with me full time. That's who basically does all most of my stuff. She does all the back
There's her
end,
hand.
does all the posting. She's the one who really is responsible for a lot of like keeping the business up and running and rolling. I'm more of the visionary side. I'm more of like coming up with the ideas, the implementation. I'm really the technical person, so I do all the technical things on the back end to make sure things are connected up and working. And then she just makes sure it gets in front of people. She's our marketer. And so the thing is we divvy things up on both sides. We divvy things up in the business and then we divvy things up at home. She's responsible for certain things at home. She's responsible for certain things in the business. They don't overlap. We do not overlap with each other. If she's responsible for it, I leave it to her. If I'm responsible for it, she leaves it to me. And that's our responsibility. I just focus on making sure that I get what I need to done. She does what she needs to. We've gotten really good at not overlapping with each other on those things. I think some people might have a hard time with that, but us, like, we've really got it dialed in. Like, we've been working together for years. And so it really just makes sense for us. She does all the laundry. She does all the cooking. I do all the shopping at the store. And so I do a lot of the outside things, going out, dealing with the landlords, dealing with the bill, like paying the bills, all that kind of stuff. I make sure all that stuff's taken care of. Anything inside of the house, she takes care of. Anything, like I said, that's marketing wise, she takes care of. I need landing pages built. We need websites, all that kind of stuff. That's her. We need something really technical built out. I do that. Like, those are just like some examples, right? But there's definitely a clear line between work and home for us. We want to make sure that we quit at a certain time, that we're on it at a certain time, that when we're during work hours, kids aren't bothering us. The kids also take on those responsibilities. We include them in that completely. Like, you have to do this during this time. If I'm on a call, like I'm on a call right now, the kids make sure they take our little kids upstairs to make sure they're not crying. They make sure everything's okay. We all know our routine, and the routine follows all the time. And it's that routine that we just kind of stick to. We all just kind of faithfully say, okay, I know what is my responsibility within the routine. As long as I keep up on my responsibility, I trust that everybody else is doing their part. And everything keeps rolling. And as long as I do my part, like I said, everything starts with me. If I start falling off on that, they'll start falling off on that. And so that's the thing I've noticed is they all follow right after me. And so I got to make sure that I'm on my game. If I'm not on my game, they're not on their game. And so that's really the biggest thing. As long as I'm on my game, I can trust and believe and have faith in the fact that they will do their part. And they do. And it just works for us most of the time.
Yeah, sure. Obviously, there's going to be outliers where maybe
Sure.
Kim's sick one day. Well, she can't do the marketing. You're going to have to
Exactly.
do it. or it's just a day it just doesn't get done and heal and get back on it tomorrow. I mean, of course, you're going to have days like that. Have you guys had it where you actually physically wrote it down or it's on a big whiteboard, like responsibilities, and you break it down? Because I still think, like, even though that might sound like a corny way to do it, it's still communicating. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of the problem that people have, especially when you're talking about personal life balance, even the gym, even your emotional health, guys, we're really good at is we really won't talk even to our girlfriends or wives about how we're really feeling. And it's the reason why it's because out of fear of judgment, and we don't want them to see us weak. So a lot of guys, this is why we created this program, is you can literally jump on a call with me or Chase or any of our other coaches and just talk man to man. This is one of the reasons why I created this, is because I want to give guys this space to create balance. If you have chaos in your mind because something's going on in your life and you cannot talk to your wife about it, or maybe she just won't understand, you're not hiding something from her. It's just something that you need another man to talk to and not your buddies. This is why Chase and I created this. It is about creating balance. So when I ask about the whiteboard or this, is there a communication system you guys use, or is it just kind of like, hey, I need you to do this and that's it? Or is it actually written, structured down someplace?
Yeah, we actually use ClickUp. We use our project management software, and
Oh,
usually that's exactly how we go about it. So we do ClickUp for the little things that we don't want to forget, like the little tasks that kind of come up. Like I've
sure.
been building this quiz out for the last week, and so everything that we know that needs to change within the quiz, we just mark all that stuff down. Anything we know, like as far as appointment wise for the kids, we just mark all that stuff down and check it off as we go. Everything else is done in time blocks. There's certain times that we have set aside that we do things, and we just follow through
Okay.
in that routine. And so it's
Perfect.
just like I said, between those time blocks and then the little things that go into ClickUp and then the Google Calendar. And that's what keeps us on track.
So talk to me about your time blocks, because I think that could really help people watching this. Is there a certain time that you go to the gym, or is there a certain time that you have for Chase's our mental health? Like, leave me, it's, I'm
Yes.
in this room, nobody reaches out to me for anything. Do you have that time block? And the same thing with Kim. Is there an hour that nobody messes with Kim? She's doing whatever the hell Kim's doing. Do you guys have
Yeah,
that
no,
set up?
absolutely. She usually sleeps in a bit longer than I do. So like I will get up about 6 a.m. and I'll spend that first 2 hours usually in an audiobook, usually trying to do like some breath work or something along those lines. I like to reflect on my goals during that time and stuff too. And so that's usually what I'll do. And then I'll go to the gym from there about 8 a.m. And then usually she'll go to the gym later on in the day because she's more of, like I said, she likes to sleep in a little bit. And so we kind of work it out that way. We don't try to like hold ourselves to certain things. Okay, you like to sleep in until about 9. I'm going to get all my stuff done in the morning when everybody's sleeping, when everybody's
Yeah,
doing that, because the kids kind of follow after her. The little kids, anyway. The little kids get up with me
yeah.
about 7 a.m., but the older kids get up with her about 9, and then they kind of take over from there. And so that's kind of how we work it out. Once I get home from the gym, I'm right into work for like the next 2-3 hours. I'm trying to focus on my biggest task for the day. And then
Okay.
from there, we usually do lunch, something along those lines. Then I'll start my second time block. She'll start going to the gym, whatever we're doing between 4 or 5 p.m. Then we'll kind of wrap up our day. I'll go to the store. She'll cook the food, whatever we got to do. That's kind of how it works out by the end of the day. And then we usually will have about 2 hours of wind down time before we go to bed.
Okay. So how do you know? And it's not really a trick question, but there's a way to tell. How do you know that have doing this routine is maintaining stava or balance? How do you know you're maintaining your balance by doing this?
So that's the thing. The days that we don't do that, because like I said, you have to live in balance sometimes. And that's why I'm not so rigid with my time blocks. Like it's roughly this time, roughly that time, roughly that time. And I try to make sure I get all that stuff done each day. But if it has to change, it will change. And when it does change, that's when things get turbulent. That's when things start to feel uncomfortable. And that's when I have to compromise. And that's when I have to be like, okay, I got to get back on track the next day. Otherwise, I'm going to feel completely lost. And so that's usually what happens is I'll try to prioritize my energy. I know that if I'm working a lot, 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row, sometimes I've got to work past 8 p.m., 10 p.m. If I got to meet a deadline and get something done, like these quizzes or whatever, right? I will work later for that. I'll make sure
Yeah.
I get that stuff done. And then by the time that stuff gets done, I usually will try to set aside a day off, maybe try and take some time, go to the beach or something like that. I try to prioritize my energy. And if I'm feeling de-energized, if I'm feeling burned out, there's nothing to do but take some time off. Like you can't continue to fight it. Just go to the beach, take some time off, take a couple hours to do whatever you want to do, take some time for you. It really comes down to that energy. And usually I will let myself get to a burnout point before I'll finally do something about it.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't like to do that. She likes to kind of not get to that point, try and avoid it. For me, like I just like to get things done. She's that way sometimes too, though, where it's like she's got a lot on her plate, she's got a lot to do, and she'll completely work and plow all the way through, and then the next day she doesn't work as much.
Perfect. Yeah. I think for me, how I know that I'm creating this balance or that I have balance in my life is I'm still very interested in the things that I'm doing at that particular time.
Right. The
I'm
motivation.
not like,
Yeah.
I gotta do 15 emails. Ugh. I'm like, oh, okay, I get to do 15 emails because Kim needs it by tomorrow so we can start creating this. So I want to do 15 to make it easier for all of us. And so I'm interested in doing that. And so that's how I know I have balance. When I become disinterested in a thing or a task,
Yeah.
I know I'm off balance someplace in something. And it's usually it brings it back to your point. It's probably because I haven't been to the gym. I'm losing that part. For me, I'm very physical. And I'll admit, guys, I haven't been in the gym in about a month. I'm saying this because I'm putting down for me when I talk about consistency. I did a post on it, I did a video on it. I don't just say it to you guys. I say it to reflect back to me. It says, hey, fucker, you're not being consistent right now. So when I talk about something, it just reminds me, this is me. This is how I am. And so when I wrote that post, if you're on my Facebook, if you're on our private Facebook community, you'll see it. And a lot of people resonated with it. That's how I know for me, I'm not balanced. It's either there's an inauthenticity, if I said that word right, that in my life where I'm not living true to something I used to, which in this case I know it was the gym, and I become uninterested in everything else. So if that's oh yeah, definitely join that group, guys. If you're watching this, it's 100% free. Chase dumps a lot of insight on there. I dump a lot of questions to the group, and just the whole point of that group is to get you guys in a dialogue, get you guys some positive. There's not a lot of negative stuff on there. There might be some funny things, but there's some positive aspects to it we like to do. But that's how I know is when I'm not interested in doing a task, there's an imbalance going on, and I'm not maintaining balance. And it sounds like that's kind of how it is. Or you said it differently, but to a degree, that's kind of how it is for you guys as well. We just want to check out of life, like fuck it, I'm just not doing this. It's
Right.
an imbalance. So if you guys are feeling that way too, if maybe that word kind of just hit you, like, yeah, I'm just not interested in the things I used to be, then there's an imbalance. You're either too chaotic, your life's too chaotic, or it's too much in order and something went wrong because being too much in order isn't chaos. It's strict. It's very disciplinarian. But if you ever met somebody who's very strict and something goes wrong, they have no coping skills. They go to chaos. So my point is everything goes to chaos if you're not balanced.
Well, that's the
And
thing too.
so
Is
even in
our
my life right now, I still look good. I'm not being a
right.
condescending, but I can feel it. Like I can feel I'm tired. I can feel like, man, my girlfriend's like, oh, you still look good. I'm like, no, last year I know I looked better. Shut up. And she's like, well, so I'm like, all right, I got to get back on this. But it's almost like it's just that thing where you're just not interested as much in things that you used to be. That's how you know
Right.
you're out of balance.
See, I've noticed that too. Like when I actually, because like your life is a reflection of what you do consistently, and we all do things consistently. Like we're either consistently inconsistent, or we're really on top of everything we want to do, right? And so like the thing is when you change whatever you do consistently, it's discomfort. Like it's just not comfortable. Your brain doesn't want to go there. It doesn't want to do that. It fights you every step of the way. Like when we try to change a habit, it's the hardest thing in the world because we're so used to doing something we normally do. Like even the thing too, like when people try to quit cigarettes and stuff like that too, they don't realize that like there's multiple habits to that. Every time you get in the car, you want to smoke a cigarette. Every time you walk out back, you want to smoke a cigarette. Every single time you go to the park, you want to smoke a cigarette. Like whatever your routine is, like it's part of it. It's become part of you. And so when you try to quit, all of those things trigger it. That's what a habit is, right? We have the habit loop. You have a trigger. Our brain perceives a reward. It takes the action. It gets the reward. And so that's just the way that our brains work. It's just this mechanism inside of our minds. And whatever we do consistently, we will continue to do consistently. And so every time we try to shift that and change it, it's just willpower. It takes all of our willpower, and our willpower is a battery. And when we're constantly using that willpower battery to force ourselves to do things, we end up exhausted. And once the willpower is gone, we end up burned out. And once we're burned out, we have no energy, no desire, no drive to do anything. We're going to lay down in our bed and we're going to go to sleep. And we're like, screw life, man. This sucks. This is not even worth it. Why does nothing matters, right? You end up super depressed. And so that's the biggest issue with it is you've got to change the keystone things like I talked about. Like focus on just the biggest things that have the most domino effect in your life. Like I said, going to the gym for an hour. That's a huge keystone thing that will have massive effects across your life. And then you'll start to notice things change in your life that you weren't even trying to change. Like they just changed because you just didn't have time for them anymore. You started working on a business that interested you. And so when you start working on that business, you have less time to play video games. You have less time for your family. You have less time for everything, and everything starts to change. And so you have to prioritize things at that point. Okay, video games aren't as important. Family time is. I need to spend some time with my kids. I need to spend some time with my wife. We need to bond because we need to continue to forge those relationships forward. Relationships are work. If you don't work on a relationship, you don't get the relationship. That's friendships. That's partnerships. That's like anything, your wife, your kids, whatever. It doesn't really matter. If you don't work on those things, if you don't consistently put in the work on your relationships, everything starts to fall apart.
It does. And, nobody said being a man's easy. Nobody said being the leader of your household is easy. You have to lead by example. And Chase said very early on is if you're not leading by example, they're going to follow you by your example. Either way. So if you're chain smoking and drinking and always living in your cell phone, your kids are like, oh, well, cell phone must be cool because dad's doing it. Smoking must be cool because dad does it. Like that's what adults do.
Well, and that's the thing too. Try telling your kids not to smoke. When you're a
Sure.
smoker, every single day they've always seen that you're a smoker, and you tell them like, no, don't do that. It's not good for you.
Yeah.
They're not going to listen to you. They're going to start smoking, man, because they've seen you do it every single day. If you tell them to eat
sometimes
better,
they do it
like,
out of spite.
like that's the thing is you're setting the example. They'll call you a hypocrite. They'll immediately think in your mind like he's a hypocrite. He's telling me not to do this stuff, but he does it every day.
Yeah, and it is defeating because I used to smoke and I got home from North Carolina. I don't even know what my day is. I think I got home Wednesday. Maybe it was Thursday. It was late and I saw that my daughter's light was on. And I know she vapes and she has told me that when she drinks, she smokes. And I saw the very same cigarettes I used to smoke on her mantle. And I grabbed them and I put water in them and I squeezed it out and I put them back on her mantle. So it wasn't like messy. And then I went, to bed
That's
and all this.
interesting.
So she knew I was the only one that probably did that. I'm the only one in the house next to my son. But I can't really say anything. I do tell her, I'm like, listen, I'm 50. I'm probably have problems down the road because I did this to my body. I don't want you to do that at 23. But
Right.
again, that's all she saw me do. And I tried to hide it, and you can't hide it. You can't hide the smell. You can't hide any of that. The point is, that's still about balance. Is you got to create a balance in your personal life, and even balance when you talk to your kids. understanding that you can't go full order on them. You don't smoke, especially if you smoked. You got to come at it a different way. And through explaining that, yeah, I make mistakes. I'm human. See, when I see as I'm getting older, my kids are getting older, it's not so much to me, it's I'm the dad, you're my kids anymore. They're seeing the flaws in dad, and it's fine because I own my flaws, but it's more of a friendship. And that's what usually happens when um kids get a little bit older. They still respect the fact that you're the dad or the mom, but it is more of a friendship. And then it kind of goes back to grandpa. Then he's the dad or the mom, and they look for direction because you've had kids. So they there comes to be more of an order down the road again. And so that's all about balance. It's all about, that's that cycle of life that I think is as I gotten older, maybe I'm a little bit softer in my years, but I never thought about these things when I was younger. I always thought I had more time for these things. And as I got to be almost 50 now, which next year I'll be 50, I'm trying to create that balance where all I did was work. And I love what I do. I love Magnetic Men. I love Scalp. I love Ice. I love my companies. But I'm kind of going the other way personally, where it's like, you know what? I'm going to spend more time with my girlfriend when I can. She doesn't live near me. We're trying to figure that out, but like I'm trying to go that way and create more of that homeostasis in my entire life, that balance, that stava, as you want to call it. And I invite you guys to try to do that. You don't want to try to be in your early years, absolutely go kill it. I tell guys, don't date women, don't get pregnant young, build yourself into the man, build your value, build your body, build your bank account, build who you are so that when a woman comes in, that's the icing. You've already built the house, you already built the cake. She's the icing. This is what I 100% advocate. So you have to go all in on you. You have to go all in on your career. There should be no balance when you're a kid. Zero balance. You should go all in. When you have kids and you bring a wife or girlfriend into the scenario, you should have enough over here that you can now start to shift and have more balance over there. That's my personal
Right.
opinion. I know it's Chase's because even though he's a young punk, he's not as young. He's younger than me, but he still has the kids. He is married, and he's starting to understand that. Yeah, it's great to make a lot of money, but it's also great to have the freedom to say, I'm not working today. I'm going to the beach
Yeah.
with the kids. So, your closing thoughts. That's all I got on it for today. So, I definitely appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm going to let Chase close out his thoughts and then talk about his app and all the amazing stuff he's been doing on all of these free links that are listed right now.
Yeah, totally. So that's the biggest thing too. Is like one big thing that I would like to leave off on the conversation with is like we don't hold ourselves to the same standards that we kind of hold everybody else to. Like we're kind of a little more willing to let ourselves slip. But when you have kids and when you have a wife and other people who kind of depend on you and look up to you for certain things, you have a bigger obligation to the people around you than you do to yourself. And if you really like don't want to see your kids doing the things that you're doing, then you have an obligation to not do them. You have an obligation to try and figure out exactly what needs to change and where. And like I said, I've seen my life get completely imbalanced before. I've focused more on work than I did at home and watched my kids completely fall apart, watched my family completely fall apart, and then shifted and focused over there and watched the business fall apart as a result. Like it's balanced, man. Like you got to focus on one thing versus the other. And at the end of the day, like I've heard so many people get into agency work. I've heard so many people like I know so many entrepreneurs out there, and they all kind of look at it like, dude, like it's better to just live an epic life. Like it's better to just kind of live a cool life that nobody
Yeah.
else is living, rather than try to make $100,000, rather than try to make $1 million. Like you're going to be chasing that money all the time, and the money doesn't really matter. Like really, what matters is the life that you're building with the people that you love, and spending more time with them. We don't want to spend our whole lives working. Nobody really wants to do that. Maybe if you're passionate about what you do, then it's not really work, right? You just continue to learn and develop yourself in that area. That's programming for me. I love to program. I love to actually get in and build things that other people can't build, other people can't do. And that's why I've put so much work into this app for us and into this app for you guys. I want you guys to be able to track your habits. I want you guys to be able to set goals and track those goals, because that's what really starts to establish order for you. When you're actually tracking things, when you actually get in there and you set up your goals and you set up your habits. But the one thing I've noticed with most of the men who come into this program is they have no idea what they want. They have no idea what they're trying to work on. They have no idea what habits they should be doing. They just kind of look at me like, well, like, why don't you tell me what I should do? And it's like, I don't know
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
personally. Like, I need to know more about you. And so we always would have them go take this wheel of life. That was the first step to everything. Like, first thing is, like, if you want to move in the right direction towards the life that you want, you got to know where you are first. Like, you ever been to the mall and you see that you are here, right? At the resort or whatever, right? And it's immediately it starts to give you clarity. It's like, okay, I'm here. Cool. That's outside. Okay, that's where I want to go. That's what this wheel of life is meant to do for you. That's what this personal values quiz is meant to do for you, is to really say, okay, here's where I am. Here's where I'm falling short. Kind of looking at the wounds and saying, okay, this is what I need to work on. And that's what all this stuff comes down to. Let me share my screen again just to kind of illustrate it for you guys real quick. That's what this is about. We kind of look at all these different areas of our life, like what's an enjoyment, what's community, what's family, love, profession, wealth, health, and then environment, right? So where do we live? What's going on around us? Who is in our life? A love could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different relationships. It's not necessarily with just a significant other or a wife. It's really like the love that we feel from our parents, from the people that really nurture and enrich our lives. And then from there, community. We've got to be part of the community. We've got to feel like we belong with our neighbors. We've got to feel like we've got people here who have our back and we have their back. That's really community. And then from there, family. Like, we really need to focus on family. We need to make sure that our family is thriving, because we care about these people and we care about the results that they get. We care about this for ourselves. We want them to care for us too. And then on top of that, profession. There's got to be clear lines between all of these things. And that's why I wanted to really put this in perspective and ask you guys questions that really pertain to these different things, so that you can get a really good idea of where you are at and where you're going. And you can come down here and learn more once you finish it up. And like I said, this is really for you. It's not for us. Like I said, every single time somebody would ask us where they need to get started, we would send them that wheel of life, and they would have to print it off, draw it out with a little crayon. I'm like, okay, I want to digitize this and make it easier. And once you complete this, there's going to be habits and goals and journal prompts inside of this app that are also going to help you out. If you guys decide to join the program, it's not as expensive as you think. We can definitely talk about it. If you guys want to talk about your results that you get on the quiz, that's what me and Jared are here for. If you guys take the quiz, take a screenshot of it, get your email, whatever, schedule a call with us. We can talk about it. We can talk about what you need to do to improve the different parts of your life. How can you improve your family? How can you improve your relationships with other people? How can you improve your community standing? How can you improve your environment? How can you have more fun? And that's the thing too that I built into the app as well, was I wanted a hobby gallery inside of there so that you could go and pick and choose hobbies and start working on different things that maybe you hadn't considered. That's the thing that I'm really trying to remove, is the mystery. I don't want there to be any mystery between what you want to do, the habits that you need to focus on. I'd like you to just log into the app, pick and choose your goals, pick and choose your hobbies, pick and choose your habits, and start to enrich your life with those things much, much faster.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they certainly did an awesome job, guys. Once you guys even just take a look in the values quiz, the wheel of life, the app itself, even our Facebook group. If you're not sure where to start the Facebook group, do the wheel of life. Introduce yourself in at least the Facebook group. Let us know you're there. I'll introduce myself because I'll know you're there. But let's start a dialogue. We will work with you as much as you want us to work with you. We have a ton of people in our community that haven't said a thing since they started. It just felt good to come in the community. And believe it or not, we delete those guys after probably about 90 days. We get rid of them because we only want to help the people that want to be helped. And this stuff is all free for you. And when I say free for you, I mean for a very limited time. This cost a lot of money to build out, and a lot of Chase's time, a lot of Kim's time. eventually all of this is going to cost money. Not much, but it's going to cost something to offset this. It's all free now, so you might as well at least see what the results are. And even the phone call to us is free. So for nothing else, you decide not to go further with us. You get to talk to Chase, you get to talk to me. Maybe it's Kim, maybe it's somebody else, but we can at least give you some direction, some clarity, and you'll at least know we're there for you. We actually got on a call with you. We didn't charge you. I can tell you most coaches will charge you just for a discovery call, $50, $100. And I don't think that's right. I probably should, because when people jump on the call with me and I say it's a half hour, it's usually an hour and we're actually coaching and it's all free. I probably got to stop that because Chase is like, dude, like, come on, like, we need them in the app. And but anyway, all of this is free. Get in the Facebook group, try out these core values quiz, the Wheel of Life, test it out, and let us know what you think. With that, have an amazing day. We will talk to you guys next Friday, where I'll be in North Carolina. Chase will still be in cool Cabo, but we will talk to you then with another live. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.
Have a good weekend, guys.